Yolanda, I am so excited about this conversation. And to sort of talk with you. We've had many conversations, you and I, but I'm sort of in this new role, right? As
Mhm.
assistant professor now at University of Oklahoma, and I'm working with sort of pre-service teachers. And a lot of the work I do, I learned from you. And so if you could introduce yourself really quickly, sort of, what you do, and then we can sort of dive into how we're thinking about schools, what we are thinking schools might become, and then what is the role of pre-service programs and teacher educators and bringing that vision to fruition.
Well, Shamari K. Reed, I am always excited to freedom dream with you. I think we both dream, but we are also on the ground. And I'm grateful for the audience who's listening, sort of peeking in or listening in. Sometimes I talk about ear hustling to our conversation because we think and talk a lot about this.
Yeah.
But I'm Yolanda Sealy Ruiz, and I am Associate Professor of English Education at Teachers College, Columbia University. And just pleased and excited to be with you, Shamari, and to be with all of the viewers who are tapping in to be with us today.
Yeah. And so I think I want to start off with a really deep question, just because it's something that I've been thinking about a lot as I sort of have transitioned into this new role. And that is, what are the schools that I think we deserve? And I think it's an important question to always think about the vision, right? To think about where we're going, because if not, I know I have found myself fighting against things, right? And I know what I don't want. I know what doesn't work. But then I have these pre-service teachers who I get to learn with and from asking, well, what should they be? And so I want to ask you, what do you think, or let's freedom dream together, right? What do the schools that we deserve look like? What do they feel like? What's happening in them? And then I think once we sort of articulate that vision, we might be able to talk a little bit more about how we get there.
That's a beautiful first question. And most of our work, we are focused on certainly the students, but most of our work concerns the teachers as well. So as I
Yeah.
freedom dream and think about this with you, I want schools that look for and help to cultivate the fullest humanity of the students and the teachers. And so what might that look like? Certainly for me, it is a space or spaces that are built on love and this
Right.
critical love that I talk about within, my racial literacy development work, love that frees the students and frees the teachers. We are in bondage in
Yeah.
education. Teachers are in bondage in many ways, trying to adhere and hold up the ways that they may have been taught in their teacher education programs. Students are in bondage in the way then they are being taught in classrooms. They're also in bondage, particularly students of color, who are our main concern, unabashedly, right? We care
Yeah.
about all students, but we know that Black students and by extension, brown students have been deeply hurt by the education system.
Yeah.
And so they're in bondage with curriculum that doesn't recognize their full humanity, who they are
Yeah.
culturally, who they are linguistically, who they are emotionally. And I want to say that there are some teachers who are also in bondage in that way.
That's right.
And they're in bondage by the curriculum that they're being asked to teach, which is sometimes a nameless, faceless curriculum that is adhering to systems, but they're also in bondage from some of the stereotypes and racist beliefs, sexist beliefs,
Yeah.
religious bias that our society really imposes on all of us. So
That's
I
right.
want a school. We deserve schools, Shamari, that seek to fight against that and to create spaces of love and liberation and full humanity for teachers and students.
Yeah. Something you said in the very beginning, this idea that the schools that we deserve, honor the full humanity of the teachers and the students. I think we start there. I think I think for you and I, we've talked a lot about a lot of things, about what it means to be human, what it means to love, what it means to need to heal. But I don't know that we are having that conversation enough as a field, right? This idea of we are working with humans and that we are humans too. And so I think the only way, not the only way, but one of the ways I think we can sort of get to these schools that's honoring the humanity of everyone in them is to first acknowledge that we are human.
Mm.
And that there's so
Mm,
much beauty in that because and it becomes the ability to love. But also, as you mentioned, we're also susceptible to
mm,
be socialized
yeah.
by a society that for a very long time has sort of held tightly to beliefs that result in a world in which many of us have experienced undeserved
Yes.
marginalization and other folks are enjoying unearned privileges. And so I
Mm,
think if we acknowledge our humanity and our ability to love, I think we must also acknowledge that as humans, we're not perfect and that we are subject to socialization,
wow.
which leads to many of the things you mentioned about the sort of bondage that we were talking about. And so I'm thinking a lot about that lately and really
Mm,
thinking about what does it mean to sort of guide folks into understanding their humanity. I know you've done some of that work. You write about that all the time. But now that we're here and folks are either listening to us or watching us, how do we get there? How do we sort of help
mm.
folks begin to see their humanity and how did you learn to see your humanity?
Wow, Shamari, you're amazing. And I'm going to want you to actually talk
Of course.
about Water for Teachers,
Of course.
which talk about a human project.
Yeah.
That has been, for me, each time I listen, I learn so much, certainly from the teachers, but also from you and the human being you are, and how you seek to cultivate humanity in others. So I know that that's just one piece. I know that your
Yeah.
blog piece, certainly I've taught with you, so your teaching is another piece. So I'm hoping that you will speak to that. And thank you for giving me the opportunity to say, you know, I actually do have some ideas about that and have
Yeah.
been actualizing it very lately with Dr. Angela Costa, former student and now a beautiful colleague
Who's amazing, by the way. Let me just say,
who
Angel is
needs to have a
incredible.
podcast visit,
And
needs
when
to
I
be on this
first spoke to
podcast.
Angel, I sent you a message, and I know you about, and I said, his heart and mind and spirit are somewhere else. I said that to you. I said, I don't know what plane he's operating in, but I don't know if it's this one. And I
It
feel
isn't.
him deeply.
Get Shamari, period. I will say nothing else except for period. And I know it's been noted that
Yeah.
Angel will hopefully be a guest on this podcast. And I will say that working with him truly is like passing through a portal. It really is. And so the what I have been doing to answer your question in relation to Angel is going more deeply into healing centered education.
Yeah.
It has been a turn for a couple of years now. This turn in education has been more towards what their first, you know, when I say
Yeah.
they, I'm talking about school systems, started talking more about trauma informed education,
Yeah.
bringing in social emotional learning through various frameworks, most notably the CASEL framework. And that company's been doing this work for about 27, 28 years. And I would say in the last couple of weeks of finishing this healing centered education summit, where it was Angel's, of course, brainchild, but me being the co-sponsor, pulling together some of the most
Yeah.
beautiful and brilliant minds in the area of equity, culturally and sustaining responsive education,
Yeah.
healing centered education,
Yeah.
trauma informed pedagogy. So there's an entire science behind it, as well as an entire field
That's
that
right.
needs to be tapped into. So I've been tapping into that. And what does it look like? I bring in meditation practices. As you know,
That's
we've
right.
taught together, we
That's right.
meditate together. I bring meditation practices into my professional development. I focus solely really on archaeology of the self before
Yeah.
we get to
Yeah.
curriculum and pedagogy. So my entire way of being at this point is to get teachers to think about the self and do that deep self work. So
Yeah.
that's what it looks like to excavate,
Yeah.
to cultivate humanity, is to
Yeah.
first recognize that we have been hurt. Our society continues to hurt us and harm us. And
Yeah.
there's no one more vulnerable than students and students of color in a classroom and their teachers.
That's right. And so I think if we were to dive into that, right, for all of you who are here engaging with us, what does that look like? What does that mean? I think for me, on a really simple level, for me, if I think about the world that we have right now and the education system we have right now, and I sort of track it back, you know, across the decades, and I see different actions. I'll admit there are some
Mm,
actions that we are doing now that we didn't do before, but the consequences to me seem really similar. And so when you think about James Baldwin, The Talk to Teacher, what is that, 63?
1963.
And you can read it now and it still applies. It's really scary to me because I'm like, okay, if we're doing different things, why hasn't it shifted? And so what I think at a very simple level is I don't know if collectively our beliefs have shifted. I don't know if we are thinking differently, not only about other people and about your students, but about ourselves. And I listen to teachers talk, and the podcast is wonderful. And it sort of invited me into the homes of a lot of educators who invited me into their lives. And the more I listen to them talk, I'm just like, wow, listen to how you think of yourself. And I don't know that you are in a place where you are honoring your full humanity. And I don't, back to your point, if you don't do that, and I know you call this the arc of self, right? Archaeology of self. If you don't do that deep work, I am not that hopeful that you'd be able to humanize the young people in your classrooms who so desperately not only need it, but they deserve it. And so I want to talk about beliefs a little bit, if you could, and sort of what you think about in your work, because you've been doing this much longer than I have, and I've learned a lot from you. But collectively, what do you think teachers right now believe about themselves and believe about their students?
Wow, Shamari, you're going in. As you were talking, I was thinking the status quo is so formidable. And we have to keep in mind, we haven't been at this just 25 years.
I know.
Or since 1954, Brown versus Board of Education. We have to go back to the beginning, 1619. We have to go back to the beginning of how humanity and dehumanization around particular groups was first sort of created. And we have been spending our time, right, trying to unravel that, trying to deal with that through court cases, through movements and so forth. So here's where teacher education comes in. Teacher education is not honest. Teacher education is not honest about our history. And this is why we keep turning out teachers who don't have that historical literacy, don't have deep honesty, that they can then see their society and themselves and their role in it. So I want to go all the way back to the fact that we're 400 years in on this. That's why it's not so easy to shift. And also teacher education programs, maybe you take that one diversity course or that one course on the history of education, and depending on the teacher, and how comfortable that teacher is really with uncovering how race has really been such a strong, I would say, shape, what is the word I'm looking for? Cultivator, shaper of the education system.
Yes.
Right? So if you're not dealing in truth, and then if you're not giving students an opportunity to really do the self-work in relation to those truths, like having a class called Archaeology of Self in Education, we continue to see what we see. Now, given that, I'm grateful of the advances that we have made, but Shamari, you're right on point. This is why it seems so slow. This is why it feels like Groundhog Day. It's like, oh, wait, didn't we do that already? Because with each new generation, the status quo in these education programs in these universities are so formidable of holding on to what's comfortable and also not going deep into the truth. We need some truth serum in our education programs.
But I think anytime truth comes about, it is banned or denied. I think about yesterday, which really broke my heart, that people are trying, I think in Virginia, trying to ban Toni Morrison's Beloved from schools.
Oh,
and if you know me at all, Toni Morrison is my favorite writer. Beloved is my favorite book.
Yes.
And what I read was just so dishonest. It's like, she's not doing anything that, or showing us anything that we haven't done, right? In many ways, it's a mirror. And all we're doing is we're seeing ourselves.
Ooh,
that's it.
The mirror.
But I think so many folks, and this is not only teacher education, I think as humans in this country, as a country, we have this problem. We don't like mirrors.
We don't like mirrors.
We do not like mirrors. And when they are presented to us, we will find a way to get around them, to break them,
to cover them,
discredit them, to say that what I'm seeing is not real.
Like the Hall of Mirrors and the horror, the horror mansions. You go in, the Hall of Mirrors distorts the truth.
Absolutely,
we're in the Hall of Mirrors.
And so when we can't engage with the truth and we can't be honest about who we are as people and what we've done to each other, I don't know. I mean, as you mentioned, yeah, there have been advancements because people have sacrificed, and I'll never sort of overlook that, right? And I don't think what either of us is saying is that we haven't changed at all. That's unfair to our ancestors who've given up so much, who've sacrificed. There has been advancements, but I don't think we are yet what we can be. I think we are still becoming, and I think what's holding us back is our inability or unwillingness, I don't know, but to look into the mirror and say, okay, we are not perfect. This is who we are. This is who we've been. And once we do that, I think we can then answer the question of who can we become?
Yeah, I mean, the great opportunity, Shamari, what you just brilliantly said, that can come from that. You know,
Yeah.
when I think about this from a personal standpoint and someone who has benefited and continues to benefit from therapy, when
Oh,
I
yes.
look in the mirror, when I face that which needs to be changed, and I put energy towards changing it, coming through that and what I've learned about myself and the growth that I have experienced has been phenomenal. It
Yeah.
is the same thing. It presents the truth, presents opportunity
Yeah.
for us to be able to be, as we started at the beginning of this podcast, what we've not yet become.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so being able to have even scholars like Robin Kelley write a book about freedom dreaming, which we've taught in our class,
Yes.
to have Dr. Bettina Love
Yes.
lift that up in her book on abolitionist
Yes.
teaching, having Dr. Gholdy Muhammad, a dear friend to both of us. All of these people are, I don't know Robin as much, but certainly Bettina and Gholdy, to then talk about cultivating genius. We have the tools. So that's the thing I want to say. When we talk about really focusing on this great opportunity that is there in teacher education, we have the tools and the thinkers, Rich Milner, Bettina Love, Gholdy Muhammad, Shamari Reed.
Yeah.
The question is, do we have the courage and the stamina and the willingness to put forth ourselves to change that what we may not even witness?
Yeah. Why do you think it's so hard to look at
Fear.
ourselves?
Fear. Same thing in therapy, going back to that model. You know how many times when I first started therapy, I wanted to run?
You know how much I lied in the beginning, by the way?
To lie? Oh my gosh.
I didn't talk about anything. And then a month would pass and I would say, I'm not healed. I'm not better. And my therapist finally said, we can't heal what you don't reveal.
Ooh.
And
say
so
that
I was
again.
like,
say that again.
We can't heal what you don't reveal.
You hear that, teacher education programs? You hear that, law enforcement?
And
you hear that, White House politics?
Right.
Okay.
But you know what it took though? Vulnerability. And I think there are a lot of hard things in my life. Vulnerability for me is the hardest thing to do, but I think it's the most human thing I can engage with. But to be vulnerable and to show yourself fully, one to yourself and then to other people, is terrifying because you open yourself up to be judged, to be seen as imperfect, to be flawed. But I think that's the beautiful thing about being human, is that we are all those things. And so once you accept them, I think for me, I felt powerful in my vulnerability, because I was like, as you mentioned, there are possibilities here. And everything that I'm identifying is a possibility for growth. So let's dive into my stuff, my internalized this, my internalized that, my biases, my prejudices. I have them, absolutely. But I had to be able to say that, share them with my therapist, and therapy looks different for other people, but I know you and I see sort of a therapist that we might see once a week, right? And that really does work for me.
Yeah, and me
and
too.
My therapist is really wonderful at inviting me to look at myself, then helping me connect dots, and then leaving me to my own to make the decision. She's very good at saying, here's the thing, I'll help you see it. You decide what you hold on to, and you decide what you let go of.
Wow.
And I think that is the hard part. But even, we can't even get to that, because I think, as you mentioned, in pre-service programs, there are no mirrors. They are trying to not only ban critical race theory, which is ludicrous because no one's teaching that really anyway. I don't know if you've seen it.
No, it's just a lens.
I
It's a
haven't.
lens. No.
And they're trying to ban everything. And so there are no mirrors. So you have folks who want to do good work, I think, and who love their students, I think, but haven't looked at themselves honestly.
We hope. And you know something, Shamari, what you just made me think of? This idea of archaeology, more and more as I sit with this
Yeah.
concept and this
Yeah.
model that, again, Angel has helped me to visualize, I'm thinking of the importance of archaeology of institutions,
Mm-hmm.
archaeology of curriculum,
Mm-hmm.
archaeology of
Mm-hmm.
pedagogy,
Mm-hmm.
and to start with the self, and that there are major archaeological digs that we need to engage with in
Mm-hmm.
education,
Mm-hmm.
and to not be afraid. And yes, that tool, the tool of critical humility, the
Yeah.
tool of critical vulnerability,
Yes.
whatever we feel we need, let's use those tools so that we can excavate that which can be changed. And so I think it feels like this is what we're calling for. We're calling
Yeah.
for a deeper dive. We're calling for radical honesty
Yeah.
in teacher education. We're calling for teacher education programs to not be afraid, to know
Yeah.
that there are scholars who have spent time thinking about this, and teachers who are actually, without even reading the scholars, they are living
Yeah.
their lives in this way. I bump
Yeah.
into teachers all the time who are advocates, activists, co-conspirators
Yeah.
for their students. And if we can just harness all of that energy and speak back to the fear that we see manifesting in banning Toni Morrison, and banning books about the Holocaust, and banning
Yeah.
books about Japanese internment, banning
Yeah.
books about authors of color, literally in libraries, putting up caution tape
Yeah.
where there are sections written by authors of color. If we could maybe harness our compassion,
Mm-hmm.
empathy,
Mm-hmm.
focus,
Mm-hmm.
then we can speak back to some of that fear that is
Yeah.
manifesting, and quite frankly, what I see as trying to, enact thought control,
Yeah.
or infringing on people's, dare I say, freedom of speech. Or
Yeah.
I'm still thinking and sitting with this because I actually can't believe there are over 26 states that have put forth some sort of bill or legislation to not talk about issues of race, class, gender, sexual
Yeah.
orientation, the Holocaust, enslavement,
Yeah.
things that are so deep in the American fabric.
Yeah.
I'm
No,
still in
it's just
shock, Shamari. I'll be
no.
honest with you.
I'm sitting with it, and I'm just yes to all that you said, and I think I'm getting to a place now where I have, and this is probably I shouldn't do this, but I do it anyway. I'm inviting teachers in service and pre-service to demand it, and to
Mhm.
stop waiting for these pre-service programs to institute a curriculum centered around the arc of self. They might not do it because they understand that if they were really to do that in ways that are genuine and deep, it might dismantle the system that's feeding them, right? And so I say to the people, the teachers, and other folks who are invested in this work, demand it.
Yes.
You demand it.
Yes.
So when you are engaging in conversations like this one, and you're hearing me and Yolanda, or you're seeing us, I don't want you to end this conversation to go back to wherever it is you teach or wherever you learn and say, okay, they said this, but they're not doing it. Darn. No, demand it. Demand it.
Absolutely.
You
Wow.
need it. If you are truly serious about your commitment to young people
And
about
developing your full humanity.
Yeah.
Because that's also a benefit. I don't mean to cut you,
Yes.
Shamari, but
Yes.
what people don't realize, and in doing this work, as scary as it may feel, and you don't really realize that you're making history when you're in the midst of doing it, or
Mhm.
making change when you're in the midst of doing it, but to come on the other side and know that you have stood firm,
Yeah.
not just for children in your classrooms, but for yourself, standing up for something that's even bigger than yourself.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
That is an opportunity for human flourishing
I agree.
and for growth.
Yeah. Because you know what that is? That is a result of choosing love,
It
even
is always
in the
love.
presence of fear. That is a result of saying, I love myself enough
And those
that I will do
children,
this thing.
and those
Yes.
children, because that is what's missing when you talk about love. I don't think we have enough teachers who love their students as their own. And I say this as a mother of one biological child and of a foster child, right?
Mhm.
So whether it's your child is biological or not, of nieces and nephews, if
Mhm.
you cannot see the children in your sphere of influence, your
Mm-hmm.
classroom, your school, as
Mm-hmm.
your own, if you cannot
Mm-hmm.
love them
Mm-hmm.
as you would love your own child,
Mm-hmm.
for me, that is the prerequisite. That is what's missing. Because
Yeah.
indeed, when I enter my classroom, even with my grown students who are
Yep.
teacher education students,
Yeah.
they know that I love them and they know what it looks like. And Shamari, we've taught together.
Yeah.
Was there any doubt that our students knew we cared about them and we loved them?
And we said it.
And we said it.
There's this weird thing in education where we can't say it. It's not happening enough in schools, K-12, but it's also not happening in higher education where you can't tell students you love them. That's unprofessional. That's not like what? That is so dehumanizing.
If the love
There's
is
something for me
pure
so
and
human
not
about
tainted.
love.
Yes.
Yes. You can say, I love you. And that's why I'm going to hold you accountable.
Exactly. Love is the greatest possibility for education.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's missing. And I think we've said this I've said it for a while. You've said it longer than I have. And I know folks are probably tired of hearing it, but we keep saying it because we're not seeing it. Point blank, period. We've said it, I don't know how long, and we aren't even the first. I think we start to look back.
Oh, yeah, Sean
our
Jenwright.
ancestors have said it
Our
even before that.
ancestors and
Love,
Sean
love,
Jenwright,
love.
who's known
Yes.
for this critical love in
Yes,
education.
yes.
I can give you a list of scholars.
That's right. But we're not seeing it. People want to jump into these quick action plans that are not grounded in love, and then they're surprised when it doesn't work.
Mm.
Love is hard, y'all,
Mm,
but I think we can do it.
it's worth
It's
it.
it's a human thing. I don't know how to talk about it other than it's what makes us human, I think. Our ability and capacity to love.
What did Toni Morrison say? I mean, you always have wonderful quotes about love.
About love with Toni, she said that it's hard
Yes.
and that you often won't know when it's too thick or too much,
Mm.
and it could lead to heartbreak, disappointment, etc. And at the very end of all of that, she says, we must try that. We must. And to not try that is so, what did she say, lazy and destimulating and so anti who we are.
Mm.
And so even though it's the hard thing, I think love is hard, I do. We must try it anyway and not give in so easily to fear. Because when we choose fear, we not only harm ourselves, but we harm the young people, and they deserve better. They deserve better.
Wow. I don't
So
have
choose
anything
love.
else to say.
Choose love, even in the presence of fear. So that's where we are.
I have nothing else to say. Can I just say that the only thing I want to do is adjust my camera so you
Yeah.
can see this is how I seek to live my life and encourage
Yeah.
others to move in peace. And this does not mean to not challenge,
That's right.
but to always choose love. And
Always.
for me, it's that critical love to free people.
Mhm,
And in that freedom,
mhm,
there is peace.
mhm.
You shut it down. You are brilliant. And how about this? I love you.
I love you. I love you. And you know what? In our last little bit here, I don't know if we've ever told the story of our sort of first encounter on any of these conversations. You and I know this, and we've shared it amongst each other. But I think people have to know that we came together. The universe brought us together because of love. I was looking for someone who loved young, specifically Black kids and students as much as I did. And I was trying to find a program that in which there were professors who I could see and feel the love. And I was having a really hard time finding these people. And I was like, okay, I happened upon one of your videos on YouTube, an address you were giving to students. And I said, her.
Mm.
I said, her. She loves in a way that I understand and that makes sense to me. And I think if I'm going to get this right, and by this I was talking about the academy then, I think she's the one. And so I sent you a cold email, had never met you before, ever. You invited me to one of your talks that was happening in upcoming weeks. I went to the talk. We still hadn't met, you all. And as you were leaving the stage, you looked at me. And I
Not
think
knowing who you were. Not
we
knowing
both
who you
knew.
were. We
You
knew
went to your
then.
office and you sent an email and you said, I think we sort of locked eyes. Let me know when you get here. And that's how our story began. Our shared love for our people and for ourselves. And so love is real. I'm saying love is powerful, love is human, and even in the presence of fear, because right now there's a lot of fear happening. We're in a pandemic, there's a lot of unraveling. Choose love anyway. I think it's the only way forward.
And I agree.
Thank you for this conversation. I always sort of appreciate any time I can spend with you. And I'm so grateful that we are able to invite other folks into this conversation. And I am excited to see the love that comes from this. I'm excited to see the love in education, K-12 schools, but also in teacher education. So I know we can do it. We just have to have the courage to choose it.
Indeed. Thank you, Shamari. I feel the
Thank you.
same way about you. And I want to thank Heinemann for its love of
Yeah.
teachers, its freedom dreaming,
Yeah,
and its vision to even have something like this to exist.
that's right.
Thank you.
Thank you.